Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Aaron Bass,
Yes.
Senator Eric Buxton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Nabi Kapocha,
Yes.
Superintendent Darrell Green,
Staying.
Tika Hartsock,
No.
Superintendent Lincoln Fuller,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram,
No.
Superintendent Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Kevin Kelly,
Yes.
Kim Rice for Ayana Khan,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Holly Sage for Superintendent Jeff Menzer,
Yes.
Xavier Mills. Absent. Noel Picara,
Yes.
Mayor Mike Krzycki,
Yes.
Superintendent Dan Shelton,
Abstain.
Bettina Riveros,
Yes.
Joel Coppish for Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Waite,
Yes.
Danielle Woods,
Abstain.
oh, sorry, Senator Tizzy Lockman.
Yeah.
Matt Den,
Yes.
we're at 18 yes, so the motion passes. Madam Chair.
Next slide, please. I will now discuss the major changes to section 2. Key changes to the redistricting plan. Thank you. So, speaking of the changes here, the section with the development of a 2-district approach has been taken out and revised as a part of the process and timeline for developing a final redistricting plan and stakeholder engagement strategy. To no longer include the modified river plan as a part of the framework for the interim plan. This section outlines how the Redding Consortium will pursue a redistricting model for the city of Wilmington, where Wilmington students are served by 2 or fewer traditional districts, with the exception of Newcastle County Vocational Technical School District. An updated process for the development of an interim plan is also discussed in this section, including the redistricting project structure, how the consortium will determine the redistricting approach, and the 3 subcommittees that may be formed that will be involved in working to address the 13 stipulations that are required by the legislation. Next slide. So the proposed project structure is also addressed. Representative Kapocha, excuse me, I'm missing. And Councilman Street are the co-chairs of the redistricting project. Proposed process: consortium members will review and vet several approaches for redistricting. In any redistricting approach that's put forward, it is recommended that the Christina School District is removed from the city of Wilmington. Proposed framework for determining the redistricting approach: the 2 project chairs will bring forth proposals for consideration, and consortium members will publicly deliberate and vote to determine a path forward. Proposed timeline changes suggest the development of a final redistricting plan should take up to 18 months. And as mentioned earlier, the suggested subcommittee structure is one focused on operational impacts. That's the first subcommittee. The next one is fiscal impacts subcommittee, and the final subcommittee is community engagement. Next slide. So let's open up the floor to any clarifying questions to be discussed amongst consortium members. Yeah.
Structure of the subcommittee. Community engagement subcommittee. Looks like that's first. Not first, because you need to find out what the, I don't even think I need that.
You do pretty online, Michael. You do pretty online.
The community engagement subcommittee should be first. You have to take a pulse of the community before you make a move to make a change, because you determine things without their input.
That's right.
They weren't ranked in order of any priority.
I don't. think
Okay,
you're
that's what I'm
thinking-
thinking, that's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
What the structure is, that's.
If we think that's a recommended change, if it's reflecting that, that's not the case, but and it has, in fact, in our discussions, it was almost conceded that the community engagement was a part of every committee, but it's that prominent, so it's not that it's taking the back seat or coming third at all.
That's what it was. looking
Yes.
at. That's why.
Noted, noted.
I made a comment on that. I just want to make a comment. And then,
Okay,
Process
it's
wise.
bagging that.
yeah, we can go right around to it.
Okay.
No, so it's just keep the microphone keeps going, it's happening. Fair enough.
I don't know the gentleman's name.
Kim Wright,
Kim,
yes.
I've been around a long time. A long time. I was born 1950, and I'm 73 years old. I've been in this city since 1964. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, there must be like 5 pens sitting on somebody's counter. The one that Tony Allen led, you couldn't have more community involvement than that. And in every single one of the plans that kind of mirrors what's being said here, this is nothing new. It's just that nobody had the courage. I'm Spanish, I could say 2 other words, but nobody had the courage to actually take action on it. Right? Lieutenant Governor? Lieutenant Governor for a long time. So I don't want you to leave tonight with the feeling that community involvement has not been part of this long process, because it has.
That's good,
Thank you.
that's good.
When we get to the community engagement subcommittee, it says serving on the subcommittee will be X, 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 blah, blah, blah. But I don't see the same or the same statement under the other ones. So who is going to be serving on those subcommittees? Who will be serving on the operational impact subcommittee? And who will be serving on the fiscal impact subcommittee? It's not detailed as written.
They are two, those others are to be determined, and that they will be generated from this body, and so we wouldn't talk about fiscal without our superintendents or the CFOs from the district, so we're deciding together.
I think it's all.
Sorry. We are.
Think it might be dead.
Yes, yeah, is it on?
Yes, my teacher was.
It's on.
It's on?
So,
There you go.
so the membership will be decided, by the body, the full body, we will decide all membership for the subcommittee.
So follow up. So again, we are going to give this as written, having not determined who's gonna serve on the subcommittees. Is that what I hear you saying? And so we'll wait for them to give us feedback before we decide who's gonna be on the subcommittees.
Can you say that again?
Yes. So we're gonna be, if yes, we're submitting the plan the way it's written with no parameters on who's serving on the subcommittee. And then when it comes back to us, we will then determine who's gonna sit on the subcommittee.
So my understanding is, we take each iteration that we have to this framework, we would take to the State Board of Education. And we would welcome their feedback, but we are not bound to wait to do further work and bring further work to the consortium, pending that feedback. We can continue to bring forward any proposals, Representative Pro Jen Street can bring forward proposals
that the consortium can consider. It's not bound by, the State Board of Education giving feedback. That's really a way for us to just continue the conversation and further develop a plan. I don't know if that's at all helpful, but it's not that we have to wait for them to give us something that tells us what to do. It's just a means for us to continually develop and kind of give them care for each subsequent version of the framework.
Does that get to your question? Because I heard you, Stephanie, asking another question as well about, are you voting on a committee structure without necessarily identifying the people who would be on that committee? Was that your question? Okay, let's just make sure that I wanted to clarify your clarifying question to make sure that it's answered fully.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you have an answer?
I don't know that we're gonna get to it the way that it's written, so I'm okay for now.
Okay. Other clarifying questions? Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Ray Jones Avery, representing the Wilmington Center for Education, Equity and Policy. I move, this body approves section 2 as written, in the, document dated April 29, 2024.
Second, Kevin Kelly, Wilmington Community Advisory Council.
Okay, we're open for any discussion if needed. Give you a moment. If we don't have any discussion, I will turn it over to the team for roll call. Go for it.
Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Aaron Bass,
Yes.
Jim Simmons for Senator Eric Luxon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Nambi Chukocha,
Yes.
Superintendent Darrell Green,
Yes.
Tika Hartsock,
Yes.
Superintendent Link Fuller,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram,
Yes.
Superintendent Joe Jones,
Yes.
Kevin Kelly,
Yes.
Kim Rice for Ayana Khan,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Polly Sage for Superintendent Jeff Benzer,
Yes.
Xavier Mills. Absent. Mo Fakara,
Yes.
Mayor Mike Rozicki,
Yes.
Superintendent Dan Shelton,
Abstain.
Bettina Riveros.
Yes.
Confirm that was a yes, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Joel Coppedge for Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Wade,
Yes.
Daniel Woods,
Yes.
Senator Tizzy Lockman,
Yeah.
Matt Den,
Yes.
22 yeses and 1 abstention, the motion passes.
Thank you. I will now provide a high-level overview of the major revisions. Thank you for section 3. So this section was revised to remove the broader recommendation for action around wraparound services because Redding already has ongoing efforts to support wraparound services in Wellington. It was also revised to make clear the goal of these broad policy considerations to promote system-wide reforms that are in the best interest of the city of Wilmington school communities. And the Redding Consortium's intention in fulfillment of its redistricting charge is to support educators and community-based organizations that are already providing services in Wilmington schools by building upon their educational investments and support that are currently working and work with them to enhance their efforts. Next slide. We're ready for clarifying questions on section 3.
Matt. Oh, Matt. You want to go back first?
So.
There's a little-
Not here.
Oh, now this one.
Oh, I hear it.
Wow.
So the point that Representative Quocha brought up at the start of the meeting, with regards to the inherent barriers that we see throughout the city. So for section 3 and further recommendations, are we also looking at the broader ecosystem around implications that impact students and families beyond wraparound services, right? Because wraparound services, I think, is a distinct thing that's related to schools as opposed to the broader community impact that impacts schools, i.e. housing, i.e. other support services, healthcare, access to healthcare. I think that has to be a holistic part of this process as well, in order for our schools to be successful. I'm a firm believer our schools are microcosms of the communities that we serve. So when we look at the disproportionate realities, right, whether that's community violence, lack of access to healthcare, economic viability, I think to a part without going too far down in the rabbit holes, some of those aspects have to be identified and fleshed out as well as a part of this process. So I was going to bring it up during the operational side of it, but when we say further aspects of it, where are we including that, if at all?
Yes, it's fine. Other clarifying questions,
I can
and comments?
speak to that.
Speak to what Dr. Green.
Thank you for that. I think I'm aware of, some conversations that we've had around the need to do a true needs assessment that's sort of outward facing as opposed to inward facing. I think we were interpreting, that as being represented by, there is a stipulation, I'm gonna see if I can find it, that was in section 2 in the operational space that speaks to that, I believe. It's on page 8, thank you, Ray. And so it's an existing stipulation, which says, but it does say the educational need. Is that the one that we're looking at? So it doesn't necessarily speak to the broader needs, although we can interpret that however we wish. And I know we talked a little bit about, maybe in the next iteration, how to operationalize an outward facing needs assessment. But, I think if we wanted to consider some language around that needs assessment, we could certainly entertain that now, or we could, just sort of put that intention on the record and talk about how to operationalize that in the next document. But does anyone else have any ideas or comments? Ray, did you want to speak to that at all?
I mean, I do. I don't want to prolong the meeting. Sure. But I do, because I think it's important to speak to it.
Yeah.
So
Just one second.
So a look at the lived conditions that impact children every day before you go to school and after you come home is a different kind of assessment than an academic educational assessment. And so I'm in complete agreement with Superintendent Green that it is imperative that we get a better, we think we know, because we know the needs of the children we serve in individual schools or nonprofits or whatever, but do we really know the extent of homelessness for children in the city of Wilmington, and housing instability and food instability? Do we really know the numbers that are actually in foster care and in unstable environments? And so that's what is broader and bigger, but absolutely essential to understanding how to develop a governing system that meets those needs. So I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, does this speak to it? We've already approved it, so what is the action to clarify and to call out the distinctions between an educational assessment and the kind of assessment that we're recommending?
And so I would just say for further recommendations for action under this one, if it's not this body, who do we partner with that data might already be there, whether it's kids count,
Yeah.
But I think it has to be part and parcel to this conversation. Otherwise, we're going to be missing the mark, and we're going to continue to zero in on proficiency rates.
Yeah.
Without talking about our birth to 3-year-old mandates, access to quality healthcare. I think we have to take into account the broader ecosystem. And again, it may not necessarily be this body, But for further action, that we do include that to some degree, whether, again, whether it's this body or another agency who may have access to the data, but I think we need to duly note that social determinants are a part of what we're discussing.
Yeah, thank you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Social determinants of health. And I would also add that when we spoke about root causes, that would be one of the highest priorities of a root cause. You can redistrict all you want, but if that issue isn't solved, I don't care what your plan is, you won't be successful. I know that from my time when I was president of the PAL board, and we had kids coming in there on a regular basis. And we set up our process to make sure they were fed before they went to school and had a hot lunch when they came back. Half those kids didn't have electricity at home. I don't want to go on all of it, but the bottom line is, Ray, if it's not incorporated in here, to your point, we're missing the mark. We can do all this we want to, but if that isn't included somewhere as a priority, we're missing the mark.
Thank you. And, go ahead. Each one from one side, I think that's all your hand number. Yeah, okay. Right?
I agree. Again, I don't think it should, I think it should rest with the Redding Consortium, to, have that as a critical input into this planning process. I mean, there's secondary data, it's not coalesced, it's not pulled together, but it has to be organized and overseen by a group, and I think that this is the group that should accept that responsibility. Okay. I don't need a microphone, can you hear me? Or is it?
You need a microphone.
For the people on there?
For the people online.
Okay. And a study of the ecosystem also has the potential to call out bright spots. You know, each neighborhood is different, so where are the neighborhoods where there are more concentrated resources than others? And so it's not just challenges, it's also opportunities that get called out from these kind of studies as well.
I think we have actually slid from clarifying questions.
Oh,
Shoot.
We
got a
to
motion.
discussions, so. Representative. Yes, clarifying question?
Just along some of these focal points, some are quite on point and easy to read, but when it comes to choice and charter reform, school choice doesn't have examples there, so it says recommendations for changes to enhance equity in policies and practices associated with student assignment and school choice. Is there any additional context to the inequity that currently exists?
So I believe that language is directly from the code establishing the body. So it's sort of general, just language right out of our statute as to what we may consider in terms of reform. And so we have not yet done the work to get to be more into specificity and evidence and inequities and what we might want to do about it. So, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do we want to do a motion and then get into some additions? But why don't you make your clarifying comment first?
This is clarifying questions and then we'll have.
You know what, I'll just say it and you can, because I'm gonna say it eventually. First of all, I agree with the comments that Superintendent Green and Ray and others made, and if someone is able to put that into a suggested change to this, I'd be happy to vote for it. My comment is that, or clarifying question / comment, I think that taking wraparound services out of the list of potential additions is a mistake, and we should not. And I think that anytime, I certainly have talked to teachers in these schools or listened to people who come to our meetings, and when they talk about the issues that they are facing, that's the thing that comes up most often is what's happening with kids before school, what's happening with kids after school, what's happening during the summer. So to remove from the list of changes that we need to consider making, the one thing that people bring up the most often, I just think is not the right thing to do. So I'm hopeful that when, at the appropriate parliamentary time, that we can add that back in.
Any more questions? I saw a lot exactly in the motion on it, but you can speak to the motion. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads around both pieces that have been spoken to. Both the idea that we would facilitate a specific type of needs assessment. I don't know if there's a specific term that we need to be putting into the document. Is there a sort of a modifier for needs assessment that we should be using? I know we already have educational in there. Is there another word? I just want to make sure that we speak to that language correctly. So some of you want to add in a bullet in this section that talks about, you know, the need to, that we should facilitate a needs assessment. And then we also want to add back in the enhanced wraparound services language that was previously in that section.
So,
Yes, Superintendent.
so I make a motion that we, approve section 3, further recommendations for action to include wraparound services. What was it?
In the needs assessment.
To include wraparound services with the stipulation that we look at social determinants of health needs assessment as a part of wraparound.
Beautiful.
Second.
Oh, we had a lot of seconds on that one.
Lose your train of thought.
No, wait. Discussion.
That's a part of. Those included.
This is Bettina. I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it was just to clarify on that motion, Darrell, did you say that that is to approve section 3 as written in this plan with the addition of the social determinants of health language?
And wraparound.
Yes, to bring
Wraparound services? I just wanted to clarify that the motion included the section 3 is written in the interim plan from April 29th. And the inclusion as with the addition of the wraparound services and addressing the social determinants of health. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Not addressing.
Assessing.
Addressing.
Assessing.
All right.
Is it fair to say that that assessment would include coalescing current assessments that exist?
Yes.
Okay, motion. And then I heard a second. Do we know?
Second. Mr. Ray. Okay. So do we have any further discussion over that? Sorry. Do we have any further discussion over that motion? Okay.
Say clear.
We need to restate it, make sure we're getting the wording exactly correctly. I'm going to try to restate it. Would you like to restate
No,
it?
thank
Okay. I would love some help. Did you write it down?
I did.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It came across several ways. I think I got to the heart of it. So the motion is to approve section 3 as written in the interim plan. Dated April 29th, 2024, pending the addition of the social determinants needs assessment and wraparound services assessment changes that came from the consortium members.
Putting the wraparound service back in, because they were removed. That's that wisdom, Maria. So that's your wisdom.
Pending.
Wraparound services. Being added into adding wraparound overhead.
Can I get the language exactly right?
Approving section 3 as written in interim plan dated April 29th, 2024. Pending the social determinants assessment and including wraparound services. Right?
I would say pending leaves it,
Pending the inclusion, pending is terminology we were given on the motion, so it means the approval is
Just
pending.
pending this.
So we add that language back
Okay,
in.
that's all.
So perhaps we should say pending the inclusion of a social determinants needs assessment and the addition of wraparound services section.
Perfect.
Okay, So that's the motion that we've said a few times, and seconded several times. And, any further discussion? Thank you all for your patience and contribution to that. If there's no further discussion, we will go to roll call. Looks good.
Ray Jones Avery,
Yes.
Aaron Bass,
Yes.
Jim Simmons for Senator Eric Buxton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera,
Yes.
Representative Naldi Chakota,
Yes.
Superintendent Darrell Green,
Yes.
Tika Hartsock,
Yes.
Superintendent Link Fuller,
Yes.
Stephanie Ingram,
Yes.
Superintendent Joe Jones,
Yes.
Kevin Kelly,
Yes.
Kim Rice for Iona Khan,
Yes.
Maria Matos,
Yes.
Polly Sage for Superintendent Jeff Benzer,
Yes.
Xavier Mills, absent, Noel Picara,
Yes.
Mayor Mike Puzicki,
Yes.
Superintendent Dan Shelton,
Abstain.
Bettina Riveros,
Me? Yes.
Joel College for Jennifer Tompkins,
Yes.
Margie Lopez Wait,
Yes.
Daniel Woods,
Yes.
Senator Tippy Lockman,
Yes.
Matt Den.
Yes.
22 yes with 1 abstention, the motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. But we do have public comment, so don't go anywhere. Hopefully we'll have a mic that works well. Representative Chakotay, did you want to add anything before we go to public comment?
Just thank everyone, thank everyone for their participation in this process and look forward to the full engagement as we move forward in the committee structure and developing this plan. I'm not sure if my co-chair, Councilman Street is on, but if he is, I'm sure he will note if he's given the opportunity that it's been long enough and we are glad to be here and begin this process of moving forward for our city. And if I can, I would like to yield to Councilman Street.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate the vote of support. And we have waited long enough. But there's an interim period here. If and when we redistrict, it's not going to happen till 26-27 school year. In the meantime, we've got all hell breaking loose in several high schools. 8 kids arrested at Newark High School week before last. And we know that part of the genesis of all that misconduct is not being able to compete academically. And I think the consortium should make a recommendation to provide additional academic support services, mental health services in those schools where we know the kids, city kids, are destined for failure, and provide those support services above and beyond what's in the existing Redding budget and what's in opportunity funded. When we knew the kids left Byard and Bancroft, 90% of them or more weren't proficient in anything. And we expect for them to go down to a high school and function and behave. It's not going to happen without additional support services, and it's above academic. Mental health is needed. People who can work with kids and change and modify behavior need to be in the buildings. Social workers need to be in the buildings. And we got to start providing that kind of relief now, and I think the consortium should recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to staff to collect public comments. I know there's a number of folks here with us. Thank you for being here with us. And you have a list, and if you haven't already had the opportunity to sign up, Haley here has a list that you can sign up for, and if you are online, we would ask that you raise your hand to indicate your desire to comment. And before we go to that, actually, I'm going to go to a consortium member with her hand up, which is President.
Sorry. And I meant to bring this up before we adopted the minutes, but the minutes need to be modified to recognize that Kyle Lynch is the vice president of the Christina Paraprofessional Association.
So we need to take another vote to incorporate that, okay. Yeah.
So moved.
Okay, good. So,
Second.
there we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we will modify those minutes. Thank you. Okay, public comment?
First, we have Dwight Davis.
Yes.
Yes, please. If you want to come up here,
Well,
or stay there, you can stay there.
I'm sight impaired. My name is Dwight L. Davis. And I am a member of the Wilmington City Council Reparations Task Force. A week ago, on May the 2nd, the Wilmington City Council passed and accepted the Reparation Task Force report, which I have copies here, and I've sent copies to several of Councilman Street. But I want to say that the Wilmington City Council is the legislative body of the city of Wilmington. It is the voice of the people of the city of Wilmington, and they are the ones that make the law. In our constitutional style of government, it's the executive office that carries out the will of the people. Last Thursday, the 9 members of the Wilmington City Council attached their names to this reparation task force, and there were 4 that were active. This task force report, this reparation task force report, is the best path forward by people of the city of Wilmington for the citizens of the city of Wilmington. Now, not to belabor this, I want to give thanks to Bishop Peter Spencer. Bishop Peter Spencer in 1813 received the first independent charter that established the African Union Church. And over the period of his lifetime, Bishop Peter Spencer established over 37 churches, and each church had a school attached to it. Prior to this, those that came up from chattel slavery were considered just that, chattel. And so on the floor, public comment last week, I said that you must read this task force report, because the only thing that is left is that there are certifications of questions of law pertaining to things that have been discussed today. So I have copies, or several copies, because in the news journal, I don't know if anyone's here from the media, but in the news journal, they thought that writing about Mayor Mike Pazicki's purchase of the Gibraltar Mansion took precedent over the passing of the Reparations Task Force. One thing in particular that really is disconcerting to me, that the Wilmington City Council
appointed Donald Patton to be our liaison on the Wilmington Learning Collaborative. My conversation with him was that he quit. So the Wilmington Learning Collaborative had no representative. But in fact, the Christina School District that wants to be eliminated from the city voted to give away one of our schools in South Bridge for $1 to the land bank. It's too many things that have been done. And I'm gonna end it by saying it's too much interconnected directorships and quid pro quo relationships that is apparent in those of us, probably including myself, that are in this room at this particular time. So I am the founder of the implementation, the African National Day of Assembly, the implementation group of this task force. And I'm gonna finish in 10 seconds. And you can count because I can count too. But what I intend to do is to say to all of you, take judicial notice that we will see you in court to carry out what the reparation task force has already put on paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Thank you very much. And as a reminder, I think it's this hour, we're doing 2 minutes for individuals and 3 minutes if you have an organizational affiliation, and the staff will have an alarm. So you hear that, that's what you do. The ringing phone, that's your sign. Okay. There I am.
Next we have Kyle Lynch.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Lynch. I'm the Vice President of the Christina Paraprofessionals Association. I speak to you tonight about my concerns. As of today, the meeting location was not listed on the Solutions for Delaware Schools webpage. I was able to find the location on the Delaware calendar, but having the location not easily accessible gives the perception, even if inaccurate, that there is no desire for members of the community to show up. The plan as shared talks about subcommittees, specifically the Community Engagement Subcommittee, which is meant to address items such as the implications for educators and administrators and other personnel that may lead to equitable adjustment to the local collective bargaining agreements, as well as engagement of the educators, staff, parents, district personnel, and community members through the transition. I can't help to think that forming and activating this committee should be done immediately. Waiting until changes begin and then asking students, staff, and families how it's going seems like too little too late. This is being done for the people who live and work in the city of Wilmington. Without full engagement in the planning process, it runs the risk of becoming something that is being done to the students, families, and educators. While I understand that this is an interim plan, it still feels light, and I believe that more engagement with those involved must be a part of the planning process. Finally, I wanted to address a concern I have about the order of the agenda. The public comments occur at the end of the meeting. I have to believe this body values and respects the comments and concerns of the people. However, when our voices are heard only at the end of the meeting, it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. The voices of the people need to be heard before actions and votes, so they may be considered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Betty Bilal.
Hello, my name is Betty Miller. I'm an instructional paraprofessional with the Brennan School in the Christina School District. I am also a resident of the Red Clay Consolidated School District. Last month, I attended my first WLC meeting on April 16th. What I saw was beyond disturbing on many levels, and I feel the same tonight. Each time I learn something new, I fill up with anger. As a taxpayer, I don't care about the bill that it takes to educate the youngest and most vulnerable of our city, just of our school district and city. What I do mind are the pockets that are being lined with money with very little actually being spent as an investment in our students. What I am disturbed by are how many half-baked plans are begun by committees like the Redding Consortium and Wilmington Learning Collaborative to be abandoned as a new group takes over. This has been going on for decades. I would not object as an employee of the Christina School District or as a Red Clay Consolidated School District resident and taxpayer if a well-developed, high-impact plan was in place to pass schools to a welcoming school district that has had success turning around their own city schools. The more I learn, the more aggravated I am by the politicians and consultants that are using these programs to bolster their political agendas, campaigns, and resumes of achievements, where clearly these programs are either failures or failures in the making. And tonight you brought up about the distance from Christina School District to the city schools. Down in Maryland, where I lived for 7 years, the school districts are by county, far distance than 17 miles. These are excuses. I hope the Redding Consortium and the WLC, along with the politicians involved, hear that we want and need real, immediate, and impactful answers that will change the educational trajectory of our youngest and most vulnerable students. We need the money to be invested in our children, not in more consultants' pockets.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Brown.
That's fine, well, I'm Kendra Brown, president of the PACE Network. What I want to say today. So, first of all, thank you so much for even coming up with this plan and making history tonight. But I somewhat do agree with some things people have said, some of the public things that people said. We do have to stop putting our public and our parents and our community last. This should have been done beforehand, but we do appreciate what is done now. Moving forward, because it is done, we are trusting you. We're trusting you just like when the president is elected to do his job. We're trusting you to do your job, do the job that you just said that you approved that you were going to do. And as the president of a parent group that supports the community of Black and brown children in the city of Wilmington to better their education, I will put my best foot forward to make sure that what is said to here today is actually done. Because that's what we do. We get in the room, we make votes, we take pictures, and we get awards, and we feel great, and that's where it lies. But we have to do the work that we were awarded to do. So all I can say is put the pressure on, because that's what they signed up to do, and that's their job. And I pretty much know a lot of people on the board. They're capable of doing the job. So as parents, as community leaders, as taxpayers, as workers, put the pressure on, just like you put the pressure on anybody else.
So next, we just have one more online.
Okay.
We have James Taylor online. Go ahead, James.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly jump on. I think at this point, everybody's aware of the row that's going on with the Christina School Board. And I just wanted to quickly propose an area of investigation for the Redding Consortium, and that's around ethics rules and clarification of the powers that the different school boards have. In capsule form, because like I don't even really want to think about what's happened over there anymore. But in capsule form, you know, there was an internal fight. Somebody launched an investigation that is not clear that they were empowered to undertake, and that led to motions that, you know, I'm not sure are legal, and it's been a huge distraction away from the work that the board is actually empowered to do. And so I would love to see the Redding Consortium look at clarifying what boards are allowed to do, and making and maybe putting forward some model ethics rules for these boards, so that going forward we're not seeing kids being distracted from by these petty squabbles that adults should be handling in their own time, or in elections, you know, which are designed to sort of hash these things out. I have a more fulsome statement on like my campaign website, but right now, like I really want to get it focused back to the kids, or focused on the kids. So if you know, whoever is responsible for setting the agenda could consider putting these things on there at some future point, I would greatly appreciate it. Y'all have a great evening.
Right on time.
Okay, do we have any other public comment or anyone who wishes to offer public comment? If so, raise your hand online or in person. I'll give it a beat. Okay. We've got one more.
State your name.
State your name for the record.
Oh,
Thank you.
my name is Helen Anderson. Some of the people in the room know me. My father was William Hicks Anderson. I think it's only fitting. 45 years ago, when y'all made this decision, only because that's the year I was born, to bring all these school districts, when the decisions were made in rooms like this, my father was one of the hellraisers saying it's never going to work, it's going to harm our children. And so now today I sit here and I'm very proud I had to be in this meeting. And sir, I'm not sure where you went, because I researched Redding and it came right up. It's something that this meeting was today. However, what I want to say is thank you, right? If this is about kids, it's always been about our children. Our babies have always been the ones that are pushed back, pushed down, and never put at the top. So this plan, whatever happens next, gives me the heart to say we are doing what's right and what's best for Wilmington children. Because I grew up in the Colonial School District. I know what they do. I know what they don't do. I work there. I am heavily invested in what's happening in Christina. I'm heavily invested in what's happening in Red Clay as I live in the district. So this work is a lot of work, but it is about our children. And I see too many children coming through, repeating cycle after cycle. Homelessness is a big thing because our families have already been failed. So we've had 45 years of failure. Now I'm looking forward to us getting 18 months of total success to put a plan in place. There's no longer we sit back, we keep questioning, we keep talking. We just have to start walking the walk. So 45 years ago, my father said that in the room, and today I'm going to say it again. It is time for us to go do the work, because we cannot allow another Wilmington child to be failed. And that's it. Y'all have a good night.
No one wants to follow that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right.